Next thing we're going to talk about is this is very short, but Woody Harrelson was recently on SNL. SNL has been doing some material that is anti-woke recently. Don't get your hopes up. It's probably not going to last, but they've been
That-
sort of
That's maybe how they're trying to become relevant again.
maybe. But Woody Harrelson did a monologue where he talked about, we'll link it, but he talked about how was presented a script that was totally crazy and implausible, where all the big drug companies bought off all the politicians and mainstream media and got people locked up and forced them to take their drugs. But it's just so unrealistic that it's so stupid. The joke, obviously, is that is what happened with the pandemic and big pharma, right? That is his joke. Nobody laughed because this is a New York crowd, and they probably thought that laughing would, cause somebody to ship them off to the gulag immediately. First of all, I don't even necessarily agree with Woody Harrelson and this notion that big pharma is the reason why all politicians and all mainstream media were totally on board with the vaccine and social distancing and all this stuff that infringe on our individual rights. I don't necessarily agree with that. It's like, okay, does big pharma buy politicians and buy a lot of ad space? Yes, they do. They spend a lot of money on both politicians and mainstream media. However, that's they've been doing this for decades. This isn't a new thing. Are we saying that they just came up with this ingenious idea to really, really make everybody overreact to COVID in such a way that is financially beneficial to big pharma? I don't think so. I think that yes, once the opportunity presented itself, like, okay, there is a pandemic and people are kind of on edge about it and people are ripe to be told, stay at home, get your vax, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, big pharma definitely push that agenda both through the politicians that they fund and through mainstream media, which they fund. They did take that opportunity at that point, but I don't think it was a conspiracy concocted from scratch to do this. It was just kind of like a crime of opportunity, so to speak. It just fell into their laps, so they just rolled with it and said, "Yeah, that's right. Let's tell everybody that they need to just take the vaccine. And you know what? Let's make sure that all the politicians we pay off and all of the media companies, let's just make sure they're all on board with that message too." Which, by the way, a lot of them were already sort of on board with that message. It's not like you had to pay them a lot. No, a lot of these people, they were already that. And it didn't take much of a push or too many ad dollars, too much campaign money. It didn't take too much to just solidify. That's my take on it.
What about lying about the efficacy of the vaccine?
I do think they lied about the efficacy of the vaccine, but that doesn't have to do with the conspiracy theory that they, through ad buys and through campaign money, pushed both the mainstream media and government officials in a direction they were not already headed in. The
Hmm.
lying about the efficacy, that's a totally separate issue. And yes, pharma companies did that. Do you think that if they didn't lie about it, that a lot of these people in media and government wouldn't have been as gung ho about the vax and quarantine and all that? I think they probably would have been anyway. That was just the mood, the hysterical mood at the time. You didn't need much lying from Pfizer.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it almost is a disservice letting these people off the hook to just say, well, it was all a big conspiracy by Big Pharma. They bought and paid for everything, and that's why everybody said the things they said and thought the things they thought, and that's why
Hmm.
we all went crazy for a while. Big Pharma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. I'm not so
Hmm.
sure about that. Mostly the people who had these opinions and tried to, or not tried, did enact these draconian laws. I think they have to own up to it, take responsibility themselves. I don't think that they can. Now that we know that a lot of these draconian laws were unfounded, that a lot of their ideas about the vaccine were wrong, don't let them off the hook and just say, wow, oh, it was Big Pharma. They paid me to say this. Or it was probably Big Pharma behind it all. No, I think maybe it was just you're wrong and it's human nature and, people being hysterical and, this snowball effect, this witch hunt effect almost. When hysterical people get behind an idea, bad things can happen and people can get hurt.
Were
Unfortunately,
you
we have to look in the mirror. It's a lot of us that did that. It's not just Big Pharma.
were you surprised at Woody Harrelson's politics? Like, did you know anything about his politics before this appearance?
I did, and so I'm not super surprised. He's kind of just like a weirdo hippie.
Hmm.
You would think, okay, he's a weirdo hippie, so of course he would be a leftist. Yes, in a lot of ways he is, but he's also deeply distrusting of the government and people in power, you know? So this point of view doesn't seem that abnormal for him. On the one hand, it's promising. It's good to see famous people say it out loud, say that, hey, a lot of these mandates were dumb and hurt people. And what you guys said about the vaccine was wrong. And maybe you shouldn't have just believed everything Big Pharma told you like an idiot. And it's good that people are saying that out loud and it's getting a platform. That is all good. But again, it's just too easy to let all the individual people who had agency let them off the hook because there were a lot of individual actors who made decisions. It's tougher to say that this is, just maybe an ugly side of human nature in stressful times. People can act like this.